Did you know that having access to information is the one thing that can take you from doing no deals per month to doing 5 deals per month? Whether you're targeting vacant houses, tax lien properties, properties that are free and clear, pre-foreclosures, or just simply building a cash buyers list. Well, we have the updates with Dealulator, aka Propstream, that are game changers. If you'll stick around, I'm going to show you how. Stand by. Let's get it.
Flip man, it's the flip man. You want some money in your hand? Flipping houses without credit or your cash. Get that bag.
Hello guys, this is Ty, aka the Flip Man, and today we're going to do a tremendous video on the new updates for Dealulator, aka Propstream. I have my guy Burton here from Propstream, and he's the go-to guy on what's going on with the actual software and, number one, how it can be used to help you do more deals. Now, before we get into it, number one, I want to introduce Burton. How's it going, man?
It's going really well. Thanks for having me. How about yourself, Tyron?
Oh, I'm good. So before we start, I want to make sure we highlight some of the things that he's going to go over, because this is a detailed video that I think is going to be more than worth you sticking around for and watching the entire video. You always want to try to get the automated way or trying to do things easier. There's no tool or anything going to do deals for you, but you can make it easier on yourself by getting the right tools. Use all of this technology to your advantage to make this money. It's just that simple. So with that being said, Burton, if you want to go over some of the things we're going to highlight today.
Yeah, absolutely. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the new updates that we just included a few weeks ago. Some of these updates are going to be a new layout to the property details. So when you're now clicking on a property, at the very top, you'll see a different layout. And so we'll be describing on the changes on that aspect. For some of you guys that have seen the new updates in the comparable section, we're going to talk about how we've enhanced the comp section to help you identify the property, the most accurate comps when you're looking at a multifamily, a single family, a condominium, and all that good stuff. The photos that are included now in that comp section. We've also enhanced transaction history. So you're now going to be able to see what's actually current and what isn't current anymore. So you'll have you'll have current mortgage information and historical transaction history. We've also enhanced our multifamily records. So this one's a big one. So in the past, we would only be able to provide you the core multifamily records, right? So we would only show you the record of the entire apartment complex, and that'll be it. But through the last few months, we've been able to find a logic and find sources to not only give you the core record of the multifamily or the apartment complex, but we're also going to be able to show you all the units that are within that apartment complex. And not only show you the units that are within that complex, we're going to show you which ones are vacant and which ones aren't. So you'll be able to see whether a person who owns an apartment complex is suffering because 75% of their units are vacated, right? So huge update there. We've added some more filters and some new categories from a category called tax delinquencies, flippers, and failed listings, which I'll go over in detail. We added some more filters in our filter, which I'll go over in detail. And then the last two major things are property page got enhanced to help you monitor your list more effectively. Skip tracing got tiered price, so you guys can get a lot more affordable, more cheaper contact information. Same goes with postcards. So postcards also got tiered price as well, so you guys can save more money on that back end stuff, that marketing stuff. So those are just some of the updates that will be shining, or obviously enlightening and going into detail more in this video. But yeah, just wanted to kind of give you guys a list of the things that we're going to be covering today.
All right, and there was the import list thing also.
Yeah, list management. So at the very end, I will shed light on our new feature called list management. I believe this is going to be a revolution to our industry. List management will be something where it will not only help you monitor your properties on a day-to-day basis, make sure that they're still within the same categories that you're filtering, But this will also be a feature where you can bring in an outside list, let's say a list from a year ago, 2 years ago, or a list that you just got from a different provider, and bring it into Propstream, and we're going to layer our records on it. So if you have a list, let's say from 5 years ago, and you're wondering, are these people still maybe wanting to sell their property? When you upload it, we're going to give you all our records. So you'll be able to know, okay, maybe half of them still need to be marketed to, or maybe the other half have just sold their property, and so we don't need to send them postcards. So list management is huge. I'll be talking a little bit more in detail about that in the video, of course.
All right, with that being said, guys, we'll go ahead and get into the new updates with Propstream, aka Dealulator.
All right, guys. So again, just a little quick overview of Propstream. So we've been in the business of data collection for 15 years. And so the idea with our product is if you're in the industry of getting real estate data, that's what we're here for. So you can search any market in the US. Now, I'm in Southern California, Orange County to be exact, but I can go to a whole different market like Memphis, Tennessee, for example. I've never been there, but I can type in Memphis and go to Tennessee and see all the records that we've captured for you. So you'll have access, in this case, over 500,000 records in Memphis, Tennessee that we've collected. You can go 10 per page if you like. Now, if you want, you can go to every single page and we'll show you 10 per page. But the idea is not only are we giving you all the records that we've collected, we've isolated them in their own categories. So you guys are, for those that use this, you guys are familiar with that. So you got the MLS, you got your pre-foreclosures, your auctions, your foreclosures, cash buyers. Now, we did a slight update with cash buyers. In the past, we were showing you properties that were bought in cash, and that list in the past had both owner-occupied cash buyers and non-owner-occupied cash buyers. So after doing some further research, we realized that people that were buying properties in cash and then occupying them weren't really investors. These were people that were buying properties for personal reasons or for their family members, and they had no intention of ever buying another property for investment reasons. So what we did was cleared up the logic. So now when you're clicking on cash buyers, all of these properties are now non-owner occupied buyers. So you'll be able to see who bought the property, whether it's occupied or non-occupied, and see who the investment is. So that's a new update there. Liens, of course, are all involuntary, vacant, and high equity. So again, from the get-go, you'll be able to search any market and get as much details, as much records as we have in that property. What we also have done is added some new filters. So when you go to our filter now here at the top, we have added some new quick list choices. Before they were just called lists, but now we're calling them quick lists because they get you straight to the point, right? So these quick list choices are on market, which was previously MLS. Now the reason why we're calling it on market is now we're showing you things that are actually on market. So this section no longer has failed listings in there. These are all active, sold, pending. And not only have we updated that, but we've worked with obviously our relationship with previous MLS boards, but it's only been enhanced. So now our frequency is about 24 to 48 hours from when it's updated in most markets. So you're going to be getting very fast MLS listings, and even if you don't have a real estate license, right? That's the stipulations. I'm not an agent. I don't have a real estate license. I don't have access to the MLS, but through Propstream, I'll be able to see their listings within 24 to 48 hours after they upload it on the MLS. So not only have we done the frequency part to get you better and faster data, but we've also partnered up with a very aggressive nationwide provider. Can't mention their name, but the reason why we partnered up with them is to finally get sell records from the MLS. That was a big challenge for most data aggregators, including us, is can we get the sell amount that's recorded on the MLS? And the reason why we were aggressive at getting that is for individuals that are using our platform in a non-disclosure state. So there's 14 states in the US where the counties will not release what the property sold for. They'll let us know the characteristics, the sell date, but they will never let us know what the sell amount is. So to circumvent that, that is why we were aggressive with getting MLS sold records. So if I'm in the market of Texas, New Mexico, Utah, an area where I can't get county record sell amounts, I can use the MLS to get that information. So again, on market was previously known as MLS, but this time it's on market because these are properties that are still on the market as either active, pending, contingent, and so forth. Vacant, again, U.S. Postal Service. We have liens, pre-foreclosures, auctions, bank owned, which are foreclosures, cash buyers, high equity, free and clear bankruptcy and divorce. These were previous here before. But the new 3 lists that we have now are tax delinquencies. So let me just kind of clear this up a little bit. This is not a lien and this is not a property in default. This is just saying that a property failed to make their property taxes on time. So that is a great lead. I like to call it the pre-tax lien lead, right? Because if an individual isn't paying property taxes on time and they continue that habit, eventually that will turn into a lead. So what we've been able to do is pull the tax roll in every county in the United States to show you people that have missed their payment. Now, the challenge that you're going to have with this list is the tax roll only comes out once a year. So when we get it, let's say at the beginning of the year, we don't know if the homeowner paid it the following month or the next month. We will know if they paid it the following year because they'll no longer be on that list. But again, it's a numbers game. So it's not going to happen quite frequently that everybody on the list is going to pay it immediately. There may still be a good 70, 80% on that tax delinquency list that still haven't made their payment yet. So just be aware, these are not liens. These are just indicators of people that didn't make their property tax payment on time. The next category that we just added is flippers. So we want to connect investors with other investors. And so we created a logic to identify a property that was bought in the last 2 years that is now being flipped on the market, meaning it's now on the MLS. So when I click on these flippers, all the results that I have here on the right-hand side are properties that have been owned for less than 2 years, and now they're on the market as being sold, right? So the idea here is that the average person isn't going to buy a home and then 2 years later flip it on the market. That's typically a behavior that an investor would take, right? So this category that we created is a great category for an investor to find another investor, or if you're looking for, let's say you have a contract, you're looking to assign to a buyer. Not only can you go through our cash buyer records now, but you can actually go through our flipper records and see people that have bought a property and now they're listing it through an agent. Okay, so fairly new one. That's one of my favorites of the new ones that we added. And last but not least is failed listings. So in the past, people were looking through our MLS records and they were going and finding failed listings. Here was the challenge with that though. One step that people failed to put was years of ownership. And let me explain why that's important. So what a failed listing really represents is an expired, a withdrawn, or someone had cold feet and they decided not to sell their house anymore, right? Now, rarely do the cold feet or withdrawn happen. Withdrawn, usually someone violated the contract, and that rarely happens. So in most cases, it's an expired listing. That's what a failed listing represents. So just want to clear things up. In the agent world, you call an agent and say, hey, I want your expired listings. They probably won't know what you're referring to. Failed listings is the terminology you want to use. But here's the challenge. A property would be listed, 6 months go by, it fails or it expires, and then an investor like yourself would go in there and buy it privately, right? So in the past, users would search a failed listing and then they would realize, well, it failed, but it just showed that it sold recently. So to clear things up, we created the failed listing category. And what this represents is that a property was owned by an individual first. That individual listed the property for X amount of period, or 6 months or whatever the period is in that market, and then it failed, but the property is still under the same name of the previous owner that listed it, right? So again, in the past, owner owned it, listed it, and it failed, and then owner sold it to a private party. And when people were pulling those records, they would get failed listings, let's say 100 of them, and 20 or 30 of them would have had a private sale occur. With this logic, that no longer is going to be the case. So when I click on a failed listing and I see my results here on the right-hand side, I can see the property. It's owned by Cedric. I can go to the MLS details and see when it failed. And now, as an add-on, what we did is we showed you the listing history. So this is a new feature that we just added. We're now letting you know the original listing date. So in this case, the property was listed back in June. 6 months have gone by, and it's failed. And if I go to the mortgage transaction history, there's been no transfer in the property. So this is an official failed listing that's still under the same ownership that listed the property initially. So that was a huge update for us to help you guys get rid of the ones that failed and sold privately. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Those were our quick list choices. Tax delinquencies, flippers, and failed listings are our fairly new ones. Now, some other features that we updated in the filter is we separated occupied and occupancy. So there is a difference between a person owning a property and living there, and that person owning the property and living there and not answering their mail. So we separated the two. So if you're looking for an owner occupied, someone that owns the property and is registered as owning that property and registered as living in that property, you can do that. But then you can also specify whether they're answering their mail, meaning it's actually occupied, someone's answering their mail, or it's owner occupied, but that homeowner is not answering their mail. So we included this so that way you can look for a non-owner occupied property who has it occupied. Maybe there's a tenant in that property, or a non-owner occupied property that's vacated, no longer a tenant available in that property. So we added that so you can create another level of finding a pain point, an owner occupied property not answering their mail, or a non-owner occupied property with or without a tenant, okay? Property characteristics are slightly adjusted. So a lot of people didn't know, but we actually have more than just residential records. The factor was that we didn't actually apply filters to show you that we had that. So in property characteristics, what we've done now is we've allowed you to look for property classifications. So in property classifications, you now have access to look for residential, commercial, office, industrial, agricultural, recreational, transportation, exempt, and vacant land. Now, as you make your option here in property classification, your property type options will then change. So since I chose residential, I get to choose the core items, single family, condo, multifamily, multifamily 5+, and I have other options now. So I can now look for apartment houses 5 units plus, boarding or rooming houses, bungalows, condominiums, duplexes, the list goes on. Now, again, as you change classifications, let's say I go from residential to commercial, then my property type will then have different filters for me. So we can look for an appliance, we can look for a bar, a casino, a hotel, as you see fit. So that was a major update that we included in the property characteristics for investors that are doing residential, multifamily units, apartment complexes. Maybe you want to flip a gas station. That's the things that you can now look for through our property characteristics. The next update is in the MLS status, and the update here is we are now allowing you to identify the failed listing date. So maybe you're looking for a property that failed on the market 3 months ago, or a property that failed on the market 2 months ago. So rather than looking for the initial listing date, we're now letting you know when the actual failed listing date was recorded. So huge update there. Next update is in our pre-foreclosure foreclosure section, and the update here is that we're finally allowing you to choose a little bit more detailed on the type of category you're looking for. So in the past, we only gave you the notices of defaults and less penance. We're now putting them together. We had them separate, but in reality, they're treated the same. Really what it means is that a notice of default and less penance don't have an auction date. Right now, the reason for the two type of documents really boils down to your state. Is it a judicial or non-judicial state? Either or, whether it's flagged as a notice of default or less penance, there's typically no auction date assigned to it. And that's why we put them together. For the pre-foreclosures with an auction date, that would be the auction section here. We now have default releases. So maybe you're looking for someone who was previously in a pre-foreclosure and no longer is in a pre-foreclosure. Maybe you're a firm believer history has a habit of repeating itself. So you can look for a default release. Not only look for a default release, but you can also look for when that pre-foreclosure was released through our new pre-foreclosure release date filter. We also have bank owned, which again is foreclosure. And last but not least, the ability to suppress records. So in this example, I'm looking for failed listings that are not in pre-foreclosure. Therefore, I have a little bit more time to work with them, or whatever your perspective is on suppressing pre-foreclosure. Ownership info, big update here, two big updates. One is the owner type. So now we can separate not only individual and corporate, but in some cases, an individual and a corporate own the property collectively. So we now allow you to look for that situation, a mixed property owner. or even a trust. So maybe you're just looking for properties that are owned by a trust rather than a corporate or individually owned or both. I'm just looking for trusts that own a property in my market. That is now an option for you. And last but not least, when it comes to the ownership info, the big update here is absentee owner location. So I'm looking for a failed listing, an example, or let's say I'm looking for a property with a lien, and it's non-owner occupied and it's vacant, so there's no tenant available in the property right now. I now have the ability to increase the level of motivation by isolating whether that non-owner occupied homeowner is either local, meaning he lives maybe down the block or in the same city, or is out of county, or is out of state. So now you can essentially, the way I looked at it is the further you live from your investment property, the more headache it becomes because you're pretty much letting your responsibilities now go more into your property management. Now, in this case, we have a lien, it's non-owner occupied, it's vacated, so there's no tenants in this property, and these two owners are in a whole different state. So they need to find either a tenant to now, rent out that property, or they're going to be paying for these expenses until they fill that gap, right? So having the ability to control whether they're out of state, county, or local was something that we didn't have in the past. We only had out of state, but now we're allowing you to get even more granular with that aspect, okay? Lien, bankruptcy, divorce status. So the huge update here was that people were complaining about not being able to isolate the bankruptcy recording date or the divorce recording date. We only gave you the option in our previous version to isolate the lien recording date. So now you have the ability to isolate the lien recording date, bankruptcy recording date, divorce filing date. You also have the ability to choose your lien type or situational type. And you also have the ability to finally suppress that certain type. So maybe you're dealing with the pre-foreclosure, but you don't want a pre-foreclosure with a bankruptcy because you've dealt with one before and it was a headache, or you don't want a pre-foreclosure with a divorce because you're not trying to get two signatures, you're not trying to get in between one wanting higher price than the other, or one wants more in return than the other. So you now have the ability to look for a lien that's not in bankruptcy, not in divorce as well. Now, if you choose a lien, just like in the past, you now can specify the lien type, and we did add a few more. Solar liens, child support liens, meaning someone not paying their child support, and other, which is, again, your abstracts of judgment, someone being sued by a company or a civil case and whatnot. So these are the updates here. The last update here is the tax delinquency year. So now you can find a property that didn't pay their property taxes starting 2017 or 2015 or whatever the tax delinquency year you're looking for there. So that is a new feature that we had. And the last thing that we did is we had a value section and we had a value trend section and we had the equity and mortgage. Now we've split that up. We now put value and equity together. So similar filters, estimated value, rental income, growth, in this case, growth over 2 years now instead of 1 year, estimated equity percentage, loan to value ratio, and tax assessed info is now all together in one in our value and equity info. As for mortgage info, that's taken a huge revamp. Now we're just getting straight to the point. So now you have the ability to look for an individual that has 1 mortgage, 2 mortgages, 3 mortgages, 4 mortgages. You can identify the opening mortgage remaining balance on that property. You even have the ability to isolate the first loan to current value by percentage or by equity amount. And last but not least, you can identify whether the property's been bought by cash or free and clear. So how does this work? Let me kind of show you an example of why we added this and how you can create some new filters in our platform. So let's say I'm searching Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm looking for someone who, let's say these options are subject to. So I want someone who's completely upside down on their property. So I need a property that has a loan to value ratio of 120%. So that's pretty bad, right? You're upside down on your property. You probably want to get out of there. But how do I make a deal out of this? Well, with the mortgage information, I can look for an upside down property, but then go into the mortgage and say, not only do I want it upside down, but I want them to have 2 mortgages. So that's probably the reason why it's upside down, is both mortgages collectively are higher than the property's value. But not only do they have 2 mortgages, but that first mortgage that they have still has equity on it. It has 50 to perhaps 70% in equity on that first mortgage. So the idea here is collectively the mortgages are upside down, but the first one has equity. So if you guys buy notes or you guys are into buying mortgages, we technically can call these 21 individuals, go to their mortgage transaction history, and we can see the 2 loans that they have active, their existing loan balance, and now we can identify, the second one is the one that's upside down. So we can potentially buy that out and then negotiate on the first loan. So we added these new filters for you guys so you can start creating some unique categories that other investors aren't looking for, what I like to call the hidden gems, right? So again, we're always trying to add new filters so you guys can, whatever your investment strategy is, figure it out, identify it through our filter. So those were the major updates that we applied through our filter. The next major update. Yeah, did you have any questions, Tyrone? I know that was quite a bit.
No, go ahead. I got one that I wanted you to. You know what? Let's go ahead and cover it now. We can come back to what you're about to go through. And those that are stuck around to this point in the video, you're getting a real gem here. Go over really quick on the multifamily and showing how. Well, number one, they've made it a lot easier to identify multifamily properties, apartment buildings that you can wholesale, which you all know that's part of what I teach in the courses or whatever. But one of the issues was because how counties code or make that information available to the public, it was difficult to identify a large number of those depending on the county. So they made it a lot easier, which I've only looked at my county. So we're in Memphis. The county for Memphis would be Shelby County, Tennessee. But what I really want to focus on is that even though it's going to give you all the details about the actual multifamily property, it'll actually show you the occupancy or potential occupancy of the property, which if it's a 10-unit building and only 4 of them are rented, that owner is probably in trouble on that particular building because most of his units are not rented. And now it'll actually show you how many of the properties are potentially rented. Now, it's going to be as accurate as the Postal Service makes it available to the public, I guess you would say. But it still gives you a general idea. Hey, I may need to target this guy because he may be distressed because he's having trouble renting his property. So if you can go through that particular part of the multifamily.
Absolutely. So with that property filter update, as you said, we can go to Shelby County now and we can go to property characteristics, look for residential, commercial, depends on how the county flags it. But normally I would choose both and then go to property type. We can do multifamily, multifamily 5+. We even can do in commercial, sometimes you'll see commercial residential, but let's go to residential, apartment houses, apartment generic, and last but not least, we'll do residential condominium or income. So
you know what, just as additional filter, Burton, what I've done is I normally, to somewhat eliminate houses, I'll do maybe like 4,000 square feet and larger.
Oh, perfect. So building size, 4,000 square feet minimum. So here are my 1,200 results.
Yeah.
And so now when we click on them, as what Tyrone was referring to, is not only do you have the unit information, right, the main building's information, which we're always going to give you, but the new update now is if you scroll down below, we're going to give you the additional link and address. So in this building, there's actually 7 units right now. And through the Postal Service, we're able to cross-reference how many of them are vacated or not. So of the 7 units, 1 of them is currently vacated, right? So it's not bad. But as Tyrone brought to our attention, if we saw 7 units and maybe 4 of them or 4 or 5 of them are vacated, that's an issue. This homeowner now, or this landlord or this apartment complex owner needs to figure out that situation, or they may want to liquidate that investment property. So that was a major update, not only showing you the additional units, but also in the mortgage information, we're going to show you current mortgages. So the mortgage they used to get this property back in 2017, and any previous history as well. So you can see who owned the property, how many times this investment or this multifamily property swapped hands in the last, well, since its creation essentially. But yeah, big update. When you're looking for multifamily, in this case, an apartment complex, we're going to break down the unit numbers for you. It's just, again, we've been doing data for 15 years. A lot of our providers don't even know that they can do this. We have the ability to, again, massage the data much more effectively than some of our competitors. So again, this is another way for an individual who's investing in multifamilies to find not just a multifamily in pre-foreclosure, but a multifamily unit that's probably not in pre-foreclosure, not facing any situation, but has 70% of occupancy or non-occupied vacated properties, right? That right there is an issue, but that would never be reported publicly. So in our sense, being that we know how to manipulate the data, know where to get it from, you're able to see, how distressed an apartment unit is, again, without even knowing that it's being in a certain situation. So great bring up there, Tyrone. That I think, again, is huge for some audience members that are starting to invest or already seasoned investors in the multifamily unit realm, essentially, that spectrum.
Okay. You were about to go into something else, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you led me right there. So what I want to talk about next is just the update and the detail information. So now, when you click on a property, what we've done is we've massively updated the dashboard here at the top. So you now have, again, photos available to you. We're now letting you see historical photos. So this is the photos back in 2014 when it was listed. You'll see any photos present, historical now, so you can get an idea of the remodeling that's been taken over place. Again, bird's eye view, street view. We did finally add the characteristics on this aspect as well. That prevents someone from going from picture back here and picture to back here. We included property characteristics and obviously included the APN. And then we just added more details. Now, the big update here is we're now kind of calculating the length of ownership automatically for you. Something like that. I guess, anybody could have done that, but we figured we'd just do the calculation for you, let you know how long they've owned it, but most importantly, how they finance that property or how they purchased it. Was it cash? Was it finance? Was it a foreclosure sale? Value trend. So estimated value today versus estimated value last year. Again, you have the comps. Now we're giving you the open mortgages, mortgage balance, the lien and the involuntary lien amount, last and prior sale, and we have the prior sale before that. So this is the last sale in 2015, prior sale in 2011. Then you have, again, your opportunity, how much equity and what the property would rent for. So this dashboard took a major uplift. We figured this is information that you really need to know. The other major uplift or facelift that we did is actually going to be in the comparables in nearby listings. So I want to focus a little bit more on this because this is going to be a big thing now. In the past, we had neighbors, comps, and MLS records, and that caused a lot of confusion. So what we did is we labeled it. So these are public record comps. So again, these are records from the county. So this is the county recorded sales. So one thing to note is that public records and MLS comps, sometimes you'll see an MLS sold property in the public record, but remember, MLS and public records are not the same database. So in some cases, when you're looking at MLS, and you can actually now isolate your header types, so we can see the MLS date here and organize it by date. You can even drag it over and move it to the front if you like. But the thing about MLS and public records is that MLS will show us sold records, in this case, December 3rd, November 26th, that the public record comps may not have captured just yet. So if I do public record comps, the county, their latest record in this market is on October 29th. So the MLS comps shows me sold records through the agent's database that the county hasn't even recorded just yet. Okay, so wanted to, again, highlight that because there was been a lot of confusion. But the updates that we applied in these two categories is we added more to your filter. Now you have the ability to isolate the actual comp. So you didn't have this luxury before. If I was looking at a condominium and I try to go to this section, it would show me single family, multifamily, and all sorts of property results that sold in the half-mile radius or 1 mile radius. Now you can say, okay, I don't want the multifamilies. I don't want the condominiums. I just want the residential, then go to property type, single families that's sold, and then you'll get your results, okay? So you'll have that ability to choose the property class and property type and the sell situation. So maybe you're looking for low valued comps. You want to know what the buyers are buying them for. So you can look at all the cash bought sales. You can look at all the new construction that's occurring in the area, all the family transfers that occurred, all the foreclosure sales, all the REO sales. So that is a major update that we included. You also have the ability to include multi-parcel sales or exclude multi-parcel sales. And that feature is carried on over to the MLS section. So in the MLS section, again, you can choose the status, active, contingent, failed, pending. It's naturally going to be sold, but then you can do the same thing, residential, single family, and then you have your comps. So again, major update was we applied more filters. We are now giving you more headers, which you can actually drag to the beginning or the back if you don't need it. You have this gearbox to choose what columns you want to see. So if you don't care for subdivision, you don't care for price per square footage, or the lot size, you can hit apply and that gets removed from your headers. One last update that we did is we attached the photos on the comps now. So if you like number one and you think that's a solid comp, guess what? You can now click on the photo and we're going to show you the historical photos on that comp. So you'll be able to see why it sold for $90,000 or why this one sold for $118,000. So it's going to be a great way for you to be more confident in the comps. You're not just going in there blindly. You're not saying, okay, this property sold for $100,000. We don't know why. We just know the characteristics are the same. We know that it's within a half-mile radius. But now you're able to fully understand why a property sold for $125,000 in this market. And that's information that your buyers are going to probably want to know. They want to know what type of rehab was performed to get it at that price point. So major update there. Photos are now embedded. You just have to click on the photo icon and you'll get those rehab photos or the photos that were listed on the MLS. Okay, so huge update there. Neighbors, pretty much every field now has filters. So we included that across the board for you guys, okay? Last update on the platform in regards to this section here is actually, let me think about that. I think that's it. So these are all the major updates that took place in the search page, from the new quick lists to the new filters that we've added to the ability to obviously have more details. If you're looking at a multifamily, you'll have the multifamily vacated units or not vacated units. So again, we'll list all the units for you. And then you have comps, new filters, photos are included, and then mortgage and transaction history. We separated all the current mortgages with all the previous mortgages that are not current. So you have historical records on the bottom half, current mortgages on the top half, okay? So now that we've talked about the search page updates, Tyrone, did you have anything to add to that or any questions before I go to the property page next?
No.
Okay. So the last major updates that we included takes place in the properties page. So in the past, we had 4 labels that we monitored: new recording, recently sold, auctions, new status. We've changed all that. So now we're just getting straight to the point. When you click on a list, the top button will now be dynamic. So in the past, that never changed. What it did was it only monitored every single property on your list. So whether you had 100 marketing lists, it would always have the collective total amount. Now, when you click on a list, these numbers will only represent what's in your list. So in this 408 Atlanta tax liens that I saved this year in June or later, that we have liens this year or later, 408 of them are in this list. 4 of them are now on market. So I can click on those property, see if it's active. In this case, it just got listed. So guess what? I can now check that off, export it. I can go to actions, delete it, add it to a different group, add it to another list, or I can go to a campaign. So we've embedded that immediately into the system. So you have your on-market properties. You figured, hey, you're going to lose them to an agent. So you can go to a new campaign and immediately send a postcard from the properties page, right? So from properties page, you can isolate your lists, see what's on market or what just sold. You can check them off and delete them if you want, or you can even just drag this box into the trash can, right? Really cool feature. You can even drag it into the trash can or drag it into another list if you want. So easy way of micromanaging your list. But that's the important part. We want to show you the total amount. We want to show you who's now signed a contract with an agent, and we want to show you all the ones that have sold behind your back, right? So no more status changes. These are in our personal opinion, and after surveying a lot of our users, these were the core things that people wanted to know. So that is a huge update there. The major update and the biggest update is, this is due to popular demand, is people would call in and say, hey, I'm exporting properties from your system, but I need to have this on the Excel sheet, or I need to have that on the Excel sheet. And unfortunately, in the previous version, we couldn't accommodate all these requests. So we finally gave up. We said, you know what, let's put our heads together. Let's get our devs into a room and see what we can do. So now, prior to exporting a list, you can head on over to this gearbox right over here and choose over 180 headers that you'd like in your Excel sheet. So you can choose property and owner information, you can choose property characteristics, tax information, last and prior sale. Maybe you want the open loan information on your Excel sheet. Maybe you want some of our calculations on there. Maybe you want MLS information like the agent's name, phone number, or email. Maybe you want the lien, bankruptcy, divorce information on your Excel sheet, pre-foreclosure information on your Excel sheet, and last, marketing list. So we can tell you how many times that property is in a marketing list, whether it's 1 or 2. Now, as you can see, some of these features are grayed out, which is going to be released in our new feature coming out later on called list management, and I'll talk about that in just a few. But just want to let you guys now know you have full control of what headers you want on your Excel sheet. So as you go down this list and choose what you want, hit apply, and then when you hit export, your headers will now at the very back have that information. So in this case, I have the MLS status and the amount and the agent's name. So all of that was applied to my list simply because I chose to apply it to my list. So huge update there. Again, we finally caved in and we decided to give you guys all of that. Another thing that we're going to do too on this area is you will see an arrow pointing to an address. And if you click on that arrow, it's going to collapse your list and it's going to let you know, hey, that property is in 2 marketing lists. And we're going to let you know when you save that marketing list as well. So we're finally trying to get more into details on, hey, you have duplicates in this list, or you don't have duplicates in this list. So huge update there. Just wanted to let you guys know now we're going to monitor every list individually, and you have the ability to export whatever header you need on your Excel sheet. And then we're going to collapse the properties that are in multiple categories for you. Okay, so huge update there. Pretty much that's what we have to offer for now. This will be revamped when we release our new version called List Management. Again, I'll explain that in just a second. But yeah, that is the properties update that we have. Tyrone, did you have any questions regarding that or any bring-ups regarding that?
No. I'll start to do some individual videos on some of the things that I think hit home with people. But I think the overview was just great, man. You really went over a lot of the updates. May be a little overwhelming for people just being introduced to this, but guys, this is the tool of tools, because information is like everything in this business. You know, being able to equip yourself with enough information even before you talk to a seller or target a seller will save you so much time and money, but also make you a lot of money. So yeah, man, unless you have anything else you want to add.
Yeah. Just the last 2 big things. We finally gave you tier pricing on skip tracing. So your skip tracing is pretty much as low as our cost is going to be depending on how much you upload. So skip tracing, not only is it tiered price, but for those of you who just want phone numbers or want emails, or if you still want both, your pricing will vary. And the last update is postcards. So postcards also got the tier price love. So we're giving you tier pricing on postcards as well. So huge update there. And yeah, the last thing I want to mention is a feature that we're going to be releasing very, very soon. I have to be a little bit vague about this, but I'll explain the idea. The feature that I'm going to be referring to is what we call list management. And we believe that it's going to revolutionize the industry because there's nothing like it in the industry right now. So the thing about an investor is time is money. We always hear that. So when I pull a list today and the days go by, the weeks go by, things are happening to that list, right? People might be paying off the default. People might no longer be in bankruptcy. They might have paid their lien. So what list management's going to do is it's going to constantly monitor your list on a daily basis. So it's going to let you know, hey, that filter, pre-foreclosure, bankruptcy with the lien, well, 5 properties that you saved a week ago no longer fit that criteria. What would you like to do with it? So you can now immediately delete it. And so you know which properties are still within that core filter and which ones no longer meet that core filter. We're also going to let you know when we do updates if new records meet that same filter, and you'll be able to instantly add them into our system. So not only is the daily updates a big thing, but this bad boy right here, you will be able to now import any list from any provider out there. Let's say you bought a list from a different provider 3 years ago. It's been sitting on your desktop for a while, and you figure, you know what, I paid a lot of money for that a while ago, and I want to know all the new updates on that list. You can take that list and drag it into Propstream, import it into Propstream, and we're going to update it for you immediately. So we're going to let you know all the new sale records, all the current mortgages, all the liens, all the records that we have on that property instantaneously to that list that you brought in. That is game changer, guys, because again, we've been collecting data for 15 years, and we know there are some providers out there that have only a few categories. So when you're getting a high equity list from them, or you're getting a vacant list from them, they're not letting you know that some of those properties have a lien because they don't collect lien data. They only collect vacant or high equity data. So when you take that list and bring it on over, you're now going to be able to qualify it even more. And not only that, but you can preset filters. So you can say, hey, when I bring in this list over, I want to only isolate the ones on this list that failed on the market and they have a tax lien. So once you import it, the system will say, hey, these are the ones on the list with that exact same criteria. And now you'll be able to instantly skip trace them and market to them right away. So big game changer, guys. There's nothing out there in the market right now that's doing this, to be able to take an old list and bring it on over and instantly update it. So you now know which ones can still be marketed to and which ones shouldn't. Game changer. Not only is it a game changer, but think of the money that's going to be saved, right? You don't want to send 1,000 postcards to people that have already sold their property. And that's what we're going to do for you. So I do hope you guys enjoy all these new updates. There's still more to come from list management. We are working on a mobile app as well. So yeah, 2020 is going to be a big year for any Propstream user out there. I mean, we already think it is with these updates that we just added a few weeks ago, but it's not going to stop, guys. We're always trying to find better and bigger and unique ways for you to find those hidden gems in our industry.
Wow, guys, man, the updates. Wow. Hey, I don't even know where to start, but trust me, I'm going to start, and I'm going to share that with you guys on how to be able to generate more leads, more deals, more checks in your bank account by using this most valuable tool that I use and I recommend that you use. Before we go, Burton, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. I mean, if you guys have any questions, we have a very, very comprehensive customer support here. We're here Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you guys have questions or suggestions, we'd love to hear it. If you're having trouble with filtering a certain filter, let us know. Obviously, the disclosure is we don't do any education at all here. So if you guys need any help with that aspect, definitely get with Tyrone. He's going to be able to help you guys with the intricate parts in between with leads and all that good stuff. But if you need help with getting to leads, or you just need lead data, that's what we do here at Propstream. So make sure you guys sign up, Dealulator.com. We do give you guys a trial period so you can play and search anywhere in the market. If you end up subscribing, we do give you 10,000 leads on a monthly basis. That's a lot. And if you do the math, $97 a month, 10,000 leads, it's about half a penny per lead at that point. So yeah, with that said, guys, again, my name is Burton. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can look for me. I'm also on Instagram. So yeah, with that said, thank you so much for your time. And Tyrone, thank you so much for this time as well.
All right, again, guys, we'd like to thank Burton for sharing all that powerful information. Again, you can access it through Dealulator.com, aka Propstream, to get signed up for the 5-day free trial. But before you do that, make sure you obviously watch this video if you're this far in the point. But the older videos, even though the system has been updated, a lot of the same features are there to show you some of the ways to do it. But I'm going to be doing more videos to break down just certain features within the product to make sure that you have the best opportunity, number one, to start making money from doing more deals. Again, we'd like to thank Burton, and as I always say, guys, we'll see you on the flip side.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Flip man, it's the flip man. You want some money in your hand? Flipping houses without credit or your cash. Get that bag.